Welcome back to the College Football Slate Show here on the 1009 Network. It's week 8 of college football. Got another jam-packed weekend. Five top 25 matchups again. One um, number 7 versus unranked Ole Miss versus LSU. But that's just about a ranked matchup if you had LSU ranked like a couple weeks ago. But yeah, just another full weekend.
Yeah, of course, we're going to be on site for one of the five. We're biased. It's in the pick'ems this week because the slate isn't super deep this week as opposed to last week. So we had to. Well, we're not going to be objective. We're going to pick Clemson, but Clemson Syracuse
Yeah.
is in the picks later on. And honestly, looking at this noon slate, really the only game of note that kicks off right at noon. Kansas Baylor, Cincy SMU, your kind of side TV games. Maybe Iowa Ohio State for two drives, but yeah, noon slate, not the best, but obviously for our purposes, it's what we focus on the most.
Yeah. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's not a great slate. Coming off a big win against Alabama, Tennessee is playing UT Martin. So
Yeah,
it's
that's tough.
week week 7 of the season, or no, it's week 8.
Eight now, yeah.
Yeah, week 8. The week 0 throws me off, but yeah, this late into this middle of the season, I understand like 2 games before the rivalry or something like that, but it's just a random spot to be playing a here we're gonna pay you game.
It just means more though, So uh, any potential letdown for Tennessee will mean they win by 40 instead of 60 against an FCS opponent at home. So not too much there for Hendon Hooker and the Vols coming off the biggest win in that program's history, at least in the last 15 years probably.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the down games. We had one last night. App State pulled it out 42-17 over Georgia State. Currently, Georgia Tech and Virginia are in a barn burner, 13-9 in favor of. Did I say Virginia Tech? Or I say Georgia? Virginia and Georgia Tech. Virginia is up 13-9 at halftime. Troy is up 7-3 over South Alabama. What do you do?
Yeah, I guess it's football. I guess you don't have Amazon, then yeah, you're tuned into that.
Kansas and Baylor play. That could have been a top 25 matchup a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely. That
South
10-point
Carolina,
spread's
Texas A&M.
interesting.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't think Jalen
it's
Daniels is back, but Bean is really not.
yeah,
He's a downgrade certainly, but as far as the rest of the country goes, look at Young to his backup. It's not nearly that gap. But
I
it is
think
on the
it's one of
road. It is
those.
Kansas. The magic's kind of
Yeah,
died. So
yeah. I was literally about to say the same thing. They've lost a couple games here in a row, and it's kind of like, okay, well, they're about to be in Kansas, so bigger spreads.
yeah, I looked it up. They the year I mentioned, I think Tuesday, 5-0 to 5-7 was 2009. So
Yeah,
that's
gotcha.
potentially there. I hope you're wrong on that. But games like this, not going to be all too uncommon. They're a 10-point underdog on the road, and it doesn't get much easier than that going forward. So we might not see a bowl game after all.
Yeah, yeah. And as I scroll through the rest of the weekend, nothing outside of those top 25 matchups, and then the Ole Miss LSU game. Nothing insanely stands out. Um, I mean, I just saw one. Oh, Penn State is hosting Minnesota, so that has potential to be a good game. See how Penn State bounces back. Um, we're gonna see if Colorado can go back-to-back wins, but they got Oregon State, so I don't know much about that. Yeah, they will. Yeah, it's just not a crazy slate outside of those top 25 matchups.
No, given those matchups, though, 330 is loaded. We've got Ole Miss in the fake Death Valley against LSU. They're a 5-2 team. They were ranked to give Tennessee a ranked win, and then they tumbled out.
Which I'm not surprised that they're back up there now for this weekend too.
No, I'm almost stunned they didn't sneak them to 25 again just to do it. But I think Tulane's at that spot now, so good for them.
Yeah.
Out west, UCLA, Oregon. That's where game day's at. That's where they should be. It's their first trip out west, and what better game to do that than this one? You had Southern Cal and Utah last week, but obviously Tennessee and Bama ruled the weekend and lived up to it. So Texas, Oklahoma State. That's another one where Texas is getting a QB back healthy in Ewers, and Oklahoma State's still, I think, waiting on Spencer Sanders to see. He was banged up coming into TCU, re-injured it, aggravated it during that game that collapsed late, as we've seen 100 times from Gundy-led teams over the years, and then now they find themselves 6-point home dogs to Ewers in Texas. So,
which is surprising. I'm
a
surprised it's
bit,
that
yeah.
high.
As far as the playoffs go for the Big 12, here's the Super Bowl right here because Oklahoma State loses this. They'll slip out of currently 11th down towards Texas at 20, and that will be
Oh,
their
I bet they
second
flip flop.
loss. They could if
The
it's out
AP
of
the
hand.
AP's gonna overreact and they're gonna flip flop if they cover, win big. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you lose your first three big tests. They did go into Waco and beat Baylor, but that's also an unranked Baylor team now. So that's tough for the Big 12 because I mean TCU is still undefeated, yes, but I don't know if 12-1 TCU as a Big 12 champ gets in, especially if Clemson runs a table. You get an undefeated Big 10 champ, and then of course they want to get in at least 2 or 3 SEC teams just to do it. So very, very important weekend for the Big 12 to say the least.
yeah. And Pac-12, honestly.
Oh,
If you look
yeah,
out,
absolutely.
if we want to look out west, you got UCLA and Oregon. That's the number 9 versus number 10. Yeah, Autzen. Au-
Eugene,
yeah, but what's the stadium called? I think it's
Autzen. I don't know how to pronounce it.
yeah, I think that's Autzen. That
That's
sounds like
close enough. That's
um
another TD spread. I was a bit surprised. I mean, DTR and Bo Nix. I mean, that's not a huge gap, but I think DTR is a better quarterback. Um, I realize he's been in college forever, as has Bo Nix. So I remember sitting in Clemson as juniors watching him play
hmm
against
I
Oregon.
think he
That first
was same class as Trevor.
he was. I remember him visiting.
Yeah.
So yeah, two very veteran QBs leading. I would say varying degrees of surprising teams. I think Oregon's expected to be in this range. UCLA certainly not, and they sit 6-0. I just don't know about. I don't know if they're a TD worse than anybody in that conference, honestly.
Yeah, I was looking at their schedule and I was trying to see who they beat, but I mean, they took down Washington when Washington was ranked.
Yeah.
Took down Utah before Utah took down USC. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're coming off a bye week too, so they've had ample time to prepare for this game.
Right. I mean, Chip Kelly took a minute. He's been there since 2018, but this is kind of the fruits of that labor coming to the spotlight nationally now, finally. And yeah, we'll talk that game later on for sure. But that's another one. Some of these spreads in these big games are a bit surprising, to be honest.
Yeah. A big spreads. You look at Clemson and Syracuse. Clemson's fair minus 13.5, which
I hate that.
yeah,
I
I
hate it.
that we're back to not trusting any Clemson spreads compared to what we got last week.
No, if they gave me 6.5 for this game, I'd probably take it. But
Yeah, not
two
13.
TDs. I mean, I realize that Syracuse primarily hurts you on the ground, and that kind of shortens the game a bit, which kind of leads me to staying away from a 2 touchdown spread, just because of how we may need to lean on Will Shipley in the run game. I think Pace, maybe, hopefully back for this one. We got Maffa back there as well.
I think he had his surgery.
Okay, maybe not. DJ on the ground now being a key part of the offense as well, so it could be a battle in the trenches. Maybe not to the degree we saw Michigan Penn State last week, but certainly to the point where you're not wanting to lay 14 with anybody. So
Yeah.
I'm confident we win. I don't know about 14 points. I think that's lacking a bit of respect towards Sean Tucker. I will say, whatever that Syracuse cornerback's name, coming out to the media and talking about the trash, thank you, because all it's going to do is make its way onto a bulletin board before this homecoming home crowd and Clemson looking to get 38 straight at home.
39, 38, something like that.
We're quickly approaching 40. I mean, last time they did lose, it was 2016. We were both there, so
Yeah, that was a tough one. I
that
remember that
one,
one
yeah.
vividly.
Chris Blewett hits a field goal from 43 out, and we lose to Nathan Peterman and James Conner. So
Yeah, what a game that was.
that was a big name game, at least now. But yeah, like I said, my line's probably minus 900. There's no point doing that. I do think we win though, but it will be a challenging game, and one of the more challenging games left for us, having gotten through Wake, NC State, Florida State.
Yep.
We go to South Bend, and the more they look like crap and have nothing to lose, the more I get a bit nervous for that one. Just
Yeah.
because of, if there's a game that team gets up for, it's going to be us. We will be their Super Bowl. We might end up being their bowl game. Just losing outright to Stanford last week, 17-point home favorites. That's brutal. Even coming off 3 straight wins, just given how they started the season, it's not looking great for the Irish. So
No. Um, and elsewhere, I don't know if we briefly mentioned it or not, but Alabama is looking for a bounce back win. They are going to take on, or they're hosting Mississippi State. The cowbells will be ringing. Um, they're a 21-point favorite.
I don't know what Saban off of loss stats are, but it goes without saying you do not
Um,
want to be that next team in town.
I saw it on ESPN. He is 19-6.
I bet it's better than at home too. So Mississippi State
Yeah.
ranked at 24. Like LSU, they remain in the AP poll for the pure benefit of an SEC contender and no other logical reason. So congrats for 4 more quarters of ranked football in Starkville.
Unless,
No,
unless,
no.
unless Will Rogers.
If Bama had won last week and this game was in Starkville, yes. But
Nah,
off the loss in
Bama
that
won last
manner,
week. Yeah.
after they give up
If
52, I think the goal this week
yeah.
is 52 yards. So, yeah, good luck to Mississippi State and the Bulldogs.
First kickoff is going to be a Reuben Foster-esque with Christian Kirk.
They
Or
need a
Speed
guy
Noel.
like that.
I
I've
believe.
seen a
Yeah.
couple former players, commentators talking about guys like
Oh,
Reuben
they have a
Foster.
guy like that.
Do they?
They have a guy like that right now. He's just not doing jack shit this year.
The ones swinging on fans or Will Anderson?
Yes. I thought Traylon Burke was a wide receiver.
He was.
Yeah. No, yeah, Will Anderson. He shows sparks this year, but he's a lot of people say he has had a very underrated or a underwhelming start to the season.
Well, I think to his credit, he was put in New York in August. And then when he doesn't play up to a level that we've seen 1 or 2 defensive players live up to, it's underwhelming by default, I think. But he certainly has not had the impact they expected. And if it hadn't shown before last Saturday, it did when they gave up again 52 points, which is the most Bama has ever given up under Saban. I don't think he was involved in the 17 flags. It might have been his teammates on the defense, but especially in the back. But
Yeah.
that defense is the most due for a bounce back in the country, which as good as Will Rogers is, that's a brutal spot for any team.
Yeah. I'll take Will Anderson headhunting Will Rogers.
Yeah, there's gonna be some pissed off defense being played, I think, and that will
I don't know about
surely
the spread necessarily, but
I wouldn't touch that.
yeah, I can see it easily being like a 17-point win. They they jump out fast, and then Mississippi State just kind of dinks and dips and gets some touchdowns every now and then.
Right. I mean, it's like the Arkansas game. The whole roll was on Arkansas, and then some Arkansas guy caught the ball inside the 10 and just kind of didn't really care to travel vertically anymore. When the game was out of hand, that's the problem with the backdoor. Sometimes the guys just don't care. So
yeah,
the cover may be right in front of them. They just don't. I mean, there's no point.
That's one thing we see a lot with Clemson.
I mean, we about saw it last week. Yeah.
Yeah. I got scared with that.
Again, 94 yards in 95 seconds. That's no.
That's not good, Bob.
No, it's not. Speaking of not great, the rest of the 7 or 7:30 slate, not the best. You mentioned Penn State earlier, 4.5-point home favorites to Minnesota. That, if you're James Franklin, I think qualifies as a must-win just because of how terrible they looked last week. Now you come back home and you get a very beatable conference opponent. Minnesota has a great defense, but I would be pretty shocked if Penn State loses that one outright.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. I know it's bounce back game. I mean, if they want any hope of somewhat maybe winning the
right, yeah. The conference streams die Saturday if they lose that game because they still have Ohio State coming up. They're not winning that game. So Um, A&M South Carolina and Haynes King we trust. Please beat them so we can
Shut
stop
them
hearing
up.
about. Yeah, just
They
win. I don't care if it's by 1 or
coaches
preferably
poll
40. Just win.
coaches poll has them at 28th, and they're celebrating that like no other. Or some of them are, but then some of them are like, why tweet this? And I'm looking specifically at you, Mr. Spurs Up Show.
Yeah, that's a place for a lot of things. I don't think logic is one of them. But the night slate is anchored by Kansas State at TCU, a huge game for the Big 12. We mentioned earlier how big of a Saturday is for that conference. And number 17, Kansas State, 5-1, travels to TCU, led by Sonny Dykes. They're again undefeated at 6-0. TCU, a 3.5 point favorite. That seems about right, I think. Some people may
Yeah,
expect it higher towards a touchdown like some of these other bigger games, but I think a field goal is about right, just given TCU's in that letdown territory now. Kansas State, a solid team. The lone loss is to a now ranked Tulane team, so it wasn't a good loss, but it could be much worse.
yeah. They're gonna need Deuce Vaughn to have a game. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
greatest, great name and great number combination with the name. Um,
Right.
but yeah, Max Duggan, is that his last name?
Yeah.
That sounded wrong for some reason. I said Duggar, but
No.
he's looking to continue having a heck of a year.
Right. He is absolutely having a hell of a season. I think it's his last. Has to be. He's been there a while too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And again, we're gonna pick that one straight up here in a minute, so we won't give away too much. But yeah, as far as the night slate, you mentioned Oregon State, Colorado. That's at 8. Pac-12 Network. I don't know how to get that, so that'll be my excuse for not watching that one. Pittsburgh, Louisville, in a battle of whose coach can underwhelm the least, I think. Washington and Cal, a Pac-12 game at 10:30, and that's pretty much it for the slate in its entirety.
Yeah, yeah. So as we've said this multiple times, outside of the top 25 matchups, it's pretty dull unless you just love watching football.
Right, there's games to watch. It's just not games that you're gonna want to know about to talk about Sunday, Monday morning,
Yeah,
outside of the ones we pulled. And then I think if we had a sixth game on the picks, it would probably be the Bama game. But with a 21-point spread, I don't see much reason to put that on there. So,
no, not at all.
um,
That that was almost like the week zero picks that we had. It's like
right, it
it's a
was,
game
yeah,
we got to put it on
they're all
there.
huge, exactly. But yeah, so with the picks, I do not think we have picks from Jacob at this point. I will say that if you do follow us on Twitter at the 1009, we will do our best to have them from him by the time we tweet out Saturday morning. We're sitting down on a Thursday night knocking this out. So
Oh yeah, it'll be tweeted out probably right in the middle of tailgating. Hopefully, so
we'll figure it out.
yeah,
But yeah, with the picks, it is the one noon game of note. It is the noon game we will both be at. It is number 14 Syracuse at number 5 Clemson. Uh, you know, we know what we're gonna pick, but I
yeah.
mean,
I'd like to say Clemson across the board. But before we get into picks, results from last week, per
yes, good
usual.
call.
Terrible week for us picking.
It
As a
was
pod, we went 5 and quick math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 4, 5 and 10. So right at 50.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not a great week. Me and Grayson won Michigan and Syracuse,
yeah.
and Jacob only won Utah over USC. So none of us had Tennessee. None of us had who did OK State play? I can't even remember.
TCU.
TCU. Okay, that sounded wrong for some reason. And I was thinking Baylor. But yeah, just a bad week in general for us picking. But everybody still has a winning record. Grayson is 24 or 25 and 15. I'm 24 and 16. He's got me by a game. And Jacob is 20 and 15. So solid records, just bad weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we're not elite, but we're going to try and be aggressively above average week in, week out. And with the three of us, usually we get one good weekend there, one bad weekend there, and then one in the middle. So we usually come out pretty solid.
Yeah. So, I mean, we already went over the first pick. I can probably guarantee you that Jacob's going to pick Clemson.
If he doesn't, we will change his pick to Clemson.
Yep, 100%. So, give us Clemson extending the longest home winning streak and longest active winning streak, which is shocking to think about after what we did last year.
Right, just goes to show that our bad season is the ceiling for other programs. So
The ceiling
second,
is the roof, and we are cycling out.
we've been cycling out for a couple championships, ACC titles, all that good stuff. Yeah, it's looking pretty doom and gloom and undefeated country. Second game does feature one undefeated team. It is number 7 Ole Miss, headed to the fake Death Valley to play LSU. LSU a 2-point favorite at home in that 3:30 CBS slot, I believe. What are you thinking there?
I think Ole Miss is way overrated. I don't think they're actually a good team. Give me LSU. LSU has been sneakily good this year. They've just gone about their way after a tough loss to start the season to Florida State and then losing to Tennessee, which not too. Florida State's a good team. They have good wins, and then Tennessee's obviously Tennessee. So give me the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been on the Ole Miss has accomplished nothing other than not losing to this point, and we've seen it from A&M. We saw it from Kentucky, and at least Kentucky, were without Will Levis when they did ultimately fall for the first time. But I just don't buy it. This LSU team, they fumbled the opening kickoff against Tennessee. I mean, that was just an indicator of how the rest of the day was going to go,
Yeah.
and it
No,
snowballed from there.
They fumbled because of the electric waves that Tennessee was sending into. Remember?
Oh, the EMPs. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
I force fields and electric currents aside, I do think that stadium will be truly electric at a 3:30 game. Best team they'll have in there, I believe, this season, unless they get Bama down the road, but I don't think they do. Needless to say, to this point, this is a huge game for LSU and Brian Kelly. Big litmus test. They sit 5-2 currently, like you mentioned, 2 quality losses in every sense of the word to Jordan Travis and Hendon Hooker, 2 of the best QBs in the country. So, I mean, no shame there. Even the manner in which they lost to Tennessee. Yeah, give me Brian Kelly at home.
Yeah. Huge game for actually both of them. Ole Miss definitely needs this win. So,
Yep.
the Penn's Kings game missed it by half a goal. It was 6-1. So
The Sixers tied it somehow. So, 31 seconds left. I'm scared to look. Third game, it is the only game between top 10 teams. It's out west where game day is this week. Number 9 UCLA heads to number 10 Oregon. We mentioned the bit of surprise about the spread being 6 points in favor of the Ducks, but who do you think wins this one?
this is probably the game that I'm feeling least comfortable about picking. I just see it being a barn burner. I think the home field advantage is too much. We saw it earlier this year with Oregon and BYU. I mean, I obviously think UCLA is better than BYU, but give me the Ducks. I don't like it, but give me the Ducks.
Yeah, I will not be with you on this one. Give me DTR, Zach Charbonnet, and the Bruins. I'm not scared off by the 6 point spread. I think it should be closer to 3.5, maybe 4, but that will also help me later on. So, yeah, give me the ground game and the QB. I think both advantages lean towards UCLA, even on the road. It is 3:30. It's not a night game. Won't be hopefully as wild out in Eugene, but so yeah, hopefully I'm going to see a duck on Corso's head around noon, and UCLA can pull the slight pull upset and decent spread upset and
so
win this one outright.
Out there.
Yeah, it's 12:30 local, which is very odd, but yeah, that's just another.
That just dawned on me.
I didn't realize until you just said it.
Damn, that sucks.
That's not great. Yes, hopefully a muted version of what can be a raucous Oregon crowd.
Wait, are they not 4 hours behind? That's math.
3.
That's bad math. Ignore it.
Yeah, you're fine. Second to last game, another huge one for the Big 12. Number 20 Texas heads to Stillwater to play number 11
Yep.
Oklahoma State. Also at 3:30. Also a conference matchup with huge implications for the playoff. And yeah, who you got in this one?
I rode him as long as I could. They let me down last week. I'm going with the Horns. Hook 'em. The fight
Uh,
Matthew McConaughey's. I think Quinn Ewers is that much of a game changer.
I
He's
agree. That's the reason I'm taking them.
yeah.
Healthy Spencer Sanders would give me some pause here, but I don't think he will be, unfortunately. Hopefully, still get a good game out of this. I think we honestly do still. This could easily duck under the 6.5 point spread, but we're just picking it straight up, and I'm going to take Ewers and Texas. I think Bijan Robinson has a day as well to kind of take some pressure off of Ewers, get some of the road difficulties out of the way early. This team struggled with Iowa State last week. That's a quality defense, though. I don't know if Oklahoma State can say the same after what Max Duggan did to them late last week. You know, 2 fourth quarter TDs and then 2 more in each of the 2 OTs, the last one being the game winner. So, yeah, give me Texas. It might be a bit ugly, maybe a 4-man shootout potentially, somewhere in the 30s, maybe touching 40s, but give me Texas.
No. Hook 'em.
And then, exactly, horns up just for this week. Last game on the slate. For our picks, it is the biggest game in the Big 12. That's how you know it's really important. Number 17, Kansas State, goes to number 8 and still undefeated TCU. Who do you think comes out of that one?
That's a tough game. They got me last week. I'm going with more horns up, but the Horn Frogs go with TCU. Max Duggan's a stud. Coach of the year is eluding me. I can't
Sonny
name
Dykes,
coaches.
yeah.
Yeah, Sonny Dykes. He's going to be the Big 12 Coach of the Year if they make it to the Big 12 championship. Um, he's got them rolling. Give me the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I rode Kansas until the wheels fell off against the same TCU team, and I'm now going to jump ship and ride the Horned Frogs train as long as I can. I'm going to take TCU at home. I think Kansas State's certainly a quality opponent. I think the spread reflects that in this one. 3.5 point spreads, like I said before, probably about right. But again, crowd a big part of college football, college sports in general. I think it'll be ready. 8 p.m. kick Eastern. That's going to be a couple hours off local where they're at. But
6 or 7. Yeah, 7. No, it's only 7. It's only
yeah,
7.
I'm hoping if Duggan and the Horned Frogs need it, the students give them a boost, get loud, and force Deuce Vaughn to do it all himself. And I think their defense is good enough to at least limit him enough to win the game outright. So give me TCU.
Yeah. So differ on one. Could be we end up tied after this weekend. Could
Right.
be Grayson gets over a 2-game lead. So you'll never know. You'll never know.
Yeah, so that's what we like straight up in the biggest games in our opinion. Moving on to what we like across the entire slate on the betting board. I've got 3. He's got 3. We will get you Jacob's 3 on Twitter by Saturday morning. And yeah, as far as locks go, what you like first?
Um, Again, before we do the picks, um, little recap from last week. Me and Grayson both went 2-3. Uh, I hit Oklahoma State plus 3.5, Bama Tennessee over 66. Grayson hit Clemson minus 3.5, obviously USC plus 3.5, and Jacob was 1-2. He only hit OK State. So I'm 12-11-1. Grayson's 12-12. Jacob is 9-12. So still tight between me and Grayson. So yeah.
Yeah, again, aggressively above average is the goal. I'll take 500 as well as college football has been lately, especially. And we'll do our best this week to get some 2-1s mixed in there again. So with that, who you like first up this week?
I didn't like this game as a straight up pick, but I do like points, and I think points will be scored in this game. Give me the over. It's a lot of points though, but give me the over in UCLA Oregon over 70.5.
Said 7-0
A lot of
and a half.
yeah, 70.5. That's a
I
lot of
think
points, but
if we get a
two
shootout,
junk
that'll probably be the
offenses.
place, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
I like
Bama
that.
and Tennessee hit it last week. So.
by a lot. I
Okay.
will be in that game, but on the side, not the total. Give me the Bruins plus I'll recheck, but as of right now on Thursday night, it is 6 points. I just think that's too much in what very well could be a shootout. I mean, it could be 49-42 Oregon,
Huh.
but I really think UCLA wins the game outright, if we're honest. So I will
But you would
gladly
take a
take the six
loss by
points.
6.
I'll take a push all day, sure.
Yeah, you'd be happy
Similar
with
to
a loss by 6.
USC, I thought they were going to win the game outright, and they lost by 1. So credit to them for being great. And, hopefully, worst case, UCLA can do the same.
Yeah, not a terrible pick. I'd rather you lose, but lose by 5 or 6 or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1.
What's your second pick looking like for the Saturday?
I'm going to bounce back into the Big 12 for that late top 25 matchup. I think they're just too good. They're on a hot streak. Give me TCU minus 3.5.
I like that. I think the winner wins by that much at least. So I don't mind that one at all. I'm also moving on to a ranked matchup. It's just one team that isn't ranked, and I think they get it done. I think LSU -2 is the only way to do it. They have lost to their two best opponents, winning at Florida, at Auburn. Not super impressive, but it shows they can get it done on the road, and now they come home. Big matchup with Ole Miss, who, again, as unproven as they come, but they're in the SEC, so they sit at 7. They are undefeated again, but big road test for them. LSU, not an easy place to play. And I think they get it done, and hopefully not by a point.
I'll probably dabble in that one a little bit on Saturday. So I like that bet. Last one I got. I like more points. I like all the points. I'm staying in the Big 12 as well. Going to Stillwater, Texas, and Oklahoma State over 60.5. Um, I think that offense with Quinn Ewers for Texas is phenomenal. They can sling the ball around, especially if Sanders plays for Oklahoma State. They're going to be slinging the ball around. So I expect a lot of points out of that game.
Yeah, I think if we see a team jump out early, that game could get out of hand in the total department pretty quickly. We saw it with Tennessee, Alabama. Tennessee up 28-10. That game got closer in a hurry, and they scored like 100-something points total by the end of it. So I don't know if we see 52-49, but I could definitely see enough to get you to at least 61. I think we're going to see points in this Ohio State game. I think it'll be by one team, and I think that this being something I've hit on a couple times already this season, give me Ohio State in the first half -18 against Iowa. They have the worst offense in the country, bar none. I don't think it's close, and I think Marvin Harrison could score walking in the end zone 3 or 4 times today. Hopefully, a couple of them are in the first half. I don't think the defense holds up forever, especially if the offense on the flip side is running 4, 5, 6 play drives. That's going to wear them down eventually. And hopefully, in the horseshoe, it happens early and often with Stroud and this Buckeye offense, and they get up to a comfortable lead at halftime.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think earlier this year I hit Michigan first half minus Iowa. So
Yep, exactly.
we're hot with those bets against Iowa. So I hope our streak continues.
Yeah, so that's our best shot at 3-0 for this week. Again, these will be on our Twitter at the 1009. You'll have our straight up picks. You'll have our bets, and then of course we'll fill in Jacobs as well. So look for that early Saturday morning as we get ready to tailgate for a little bit before we get kicked off against Syracuse.
Yep. So the boys will probably see each other more than likely, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, stay tuned for anything you see up there. Doubt we'll get anything crazy, but
Yeah,
who
we'll
knows?
see. But
So
yeah, so we're about to cut and then get rolling on NFL. So if you're only here for college, we appreciate it. This is Apple and Spotify as usual for the listeners, and then for the watchers, we're still on YouTube at 10:09 on there as well. So if for some reason you want to see this live and in color, then we'll be there as well.
yeah, see
I'll
our
leave that
ugly
in too.
mugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead. So, time to stop and pray. Stop and play.
Subscribe.